The king stood tall in the grand hall, his crown shining like 1,000 stars. His face turned red with anger as he pointed his golden scepter at the old janitor kneeling on the cold stone floor. "Bow to me." The king roared, his voice echoing off the walls like thunder. Everyone else in the room, the guards, the nobles, even the cooks, had already bent low, their heads touching the ground. But the janitor, with his gray hair and wrinkled face, just looked up slowly. His mop lay forgotten beside him, water dripping from it like tears. "I will not bow," the janitor said in a calm, steady voice. The room gasped. No one had ever refused the king before. The king's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in fury. He raised his scepter high, ready to strike. The janitor didn't flinch. He stared right back, his old eyes full of fire. The guards stepped forward, swords drawn, but the king held up his hand. "Why?" he demanded. "Why do you defy me?" The janitor smiled, a small, secret smile. And just as he opened his mouth to answer, a loud crash came from the shadows. Something huge was breaking through the castle wall. But let's go back to how it all started. A few weeks earlier, in the quiet village at the edge of the kingdom, Tom was the janitor's name, and he lived in a tiny hut with his little granddaughter, Lily. Tom was old, with hands rough from years of scrubbing floors and fixing broken things. He worked at the king's castle every day, cleaning up after fancy parties and messy nights. No one noticed him much. He was just the janitor, invisible like a shadow. But Tom had a big heart and a strong spirit. He taught Lily to be kind and brave. "Never bow to fear," he would say, "only to what's right." One Sunday morning, Tom woke up to bad news. The king had made a new rule. Everyone must bow to him whenever he passed, or face punishment. The villagers whispered about it in fear. "The king is getting meaner," they said. "He wants to control everything." Tom frowned as he heard this. He remembered a time when the king was fair, but power had changed him. That day at the castle, Tom saw the first sign of trouble. A young baker boy forgot to bow when the king walked by. The guards grabbed him and threw him in the dungeon. Tom felt a knot in his stomach. "This isn't right," he muttered to himself while mopping the hallway. As he worked, he found a hidden door behind a dusty tapestry. Curious, he peeked inside. It led to a secret room full of old books and maps. One book caught his eye. It was about the kingdom's history, with stories of brave people who stood up to bad rulers. Tom started reading in secret every day. He learned about a long-ago hero who refused to bow to a tyrant king and save the land. Maybe I can be like that, Tom thought. But he kept it quiet, not wanting to scare Lily. Days passed, and the king's rules got stricter. People had to give him more taxes, and anyone who complained disappeared. Tom saw families crying as their homes were taken. His heart hurt. One night, Lily asked, "Grandpa, why is everyone so sad?" Tom hugged her. "Because the king forgot how to be good. But remember, one person can make a difference." Then came the big party. The king invited all the important people to the grand hall. Tom was there early, cleaning the floors until they shone. As guests arrived, the king entered with a big smile, but his eyes were cold. Everyone bowed low. Tom was in the corner, but a guard spotted him standing straight. "Bow!" the guard yelled. Tom paused, his mop in hand. He thought of the hero in the book, of Lily, of all the scared villagers. The king turned, noticing the fuss. "You there, janitor, bow to your king." The room went silent. Tom's hands shook a little, but he stood tall. Whispers spread like wildfire. The king's face twisted in rage. He marched over, towering over Tom. "How dare you!" he shouted. Tom took a deep breath. "I respect the crown, but not the man who wears it wrong." Gasps filled the air. The king raised his hand to call the guards. But before they could move, Tom pulled something from his pocket. A small, glowing stone he had found in the secret room. It sparkled with magic light, making everyone freeze in wonder. What was this stone, and what secret power did it hold? The king stepped back, fear in his eyes for the first time. But just as Tom started to explain, the ground shook. A hidden enemy was attacking the castle from outside. The grand hall trembled as another crash echoed from the castle walls. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the glowing chandelier swung wildly. The nobles screamed, scrambling for cover, while the guards gripped their swords, unsure where to turn. The king's face, moments ago red with rage, now paled with fear. Tom, still holding the glowing stone, stood firm in the chaos. The mysterious light pulsed in his hand, warm and steady, like a heartbeat. What was it, and why was the castle under attack? The room held its breath, waiting for answers. But let's step back a few days to understand how Tom found himself in this moment. After discovering the secret room and the book about the hero, Tom couldn't stop thinking about it. Every night, he sneaked into the castle after his cleaning shift, reading more by candlelight. The book told of a time when the kingdom was free, ruled by a council of kind leaders. But a greedy king, much like the one now, had stolen power, using fear to control everyone. The hero, a simple farmer, had found a magical stone that gave him courage to stand up and unite the people. Tom wondered if the stone he'd found in the room was the same one. It felt alive, buzzing, softly when he touched it. Back in the village, things got worse. The king's guards were everywhere, watching everyone. One day, Tom saw them take old Mrs. Clara's bakery because she couldn't pay the new taxes. Lily ran to Tom, tears in her eyes. "Grandpa, they took her shop. Where will she go?" Tom hugged her tight, his heart heavy. He wanted to tell her about the stone, but he was scared. What if it was dangerous? What if the king found out? At the castle, Tom kept his head down, but he noticed things. The guards whispered about a rebel group hiding in the forest, plotting against the king. Tom overheard one say, "They're getting stronger. We need to crush them before the big party." Tom's mind raced. Rebels? Could they be like the hero in the book? He wanted to find them, but how? He was just a janitor. One evening, while cleaning the stables, Tom found a crumpled note under a hay bale. It said, "Meet us at the old oak at midnight. We know you're brave." His heart pounded. Who left this? Was it a trap? He tucked the note in his pocket and told Lily he'd be late. That night, under a starry sky, he crept to the old oak tree outside the village. Shadows moved, and 3 figures stepped out. A woman with a scar on her cheek, a young man with a bow, and an old man with a limp. "Tom," the woman whispered, "we've seen you stand tall. Will you help us fight the king?" Tom hesitated. He thought of Lily, safe at home, but he also thought of Mrs. Clara and the scared villagers. He showed them the glowing stone. The old man gasped. "The stone of courage. It's real." They told Tom it was a legend, a magic relic that could inspire people to be brave. But it came with a warning. Only someone pure of heart could use it, or it would turn against them. The rebels asked Tom to join their plan. They wanted to sneak into the king's party and show the people the stone's power, to spark hope. Tom agreed, but fear gnawed at him. What if he failed? What if Lily got hurt? He went home, the stone heavy in his pocket. The day of the party arrived. Tom cleaned the grand hall, his mind spinning. He hid the stone in his apron, ready to show it if the moment came. The hall filled with fancy guests, and the king strutted in, demanding bows. When Tom refused, the stone grew warm, giving him strength. He spoke his truth, and the king's anger exploded. But just as Tom revealed the stone, the castle shook. A giant wooden ram smashed through the wall, and masked rebels poured in, swords flashing. "Tom!" the scarred woman shouted. "Now!" The king screamed for his guards, but they were frozen, staring at the glowing stone. Tom held it high, its light flooding the room. The rebels charged, but something else moved in the shadows. A dark figure, taller than any man, with eyes like burning coals. It wasn't with the rebels. It wasn't with the king. It was something else entirely. Who was this new enemy, and what did it want with the stone? The grand hall was a whirlwind of chaos. The glowing stone in Tom's hand pulsed brighter, casting beams of light that danced across the shattered walls. Rebels clashed with guards, swords clanging like a storm. The king cowered behind his throne, shouting orders no one followed. But all eyes were drawn to the dark figure emerging from the broken wall. It was tall, cloaked in shadows that seemed to twist like smoke. Its eyes burned red, and its voice hissed like a snake. "Give me the stone," it demanded, pointing a bony finger at Tom. The janitor's heart raced, but he tightened his grip. The stone's warmth gave him courage, yet fear whispered, what was this creature? And why did it want the stone so badly? Let's go back a few hours to see how Tom got here. The morning of the king's party, Tom woke with a heavy heart. He'd promised the rebels he'd help, but doubt gnawed at him. The stone of courage felt like a heavy secret. He hid it in his sock drawer before taking Lily to the market. The village buzzed with nervous energy. Everyone was scared of the king's new rules. Tom overheard whispers about the rebels' plan. Some villagers called them heroes. Others thought they were fools who'd get everyone killed. Tom bought Lily a sweet bun to cheer her up, but she noticed his worry. "Grandpa, are you okay?" she asked. Tom forced a smile. "Just thinking, little one." Back at the castle, Tom swept the grand hall, his mind racing. The rebels had told him to wait for their signal, a loud horn, before showing the stone. It would inspire the people to stand against the king. But Tom felt uneasy. The note from the rebels had been so sudden. What if someone was watching him? As he cleaned, he noticed a strange man in a black cloak, lingering near the castle gates. The man's eyes seemed to glow faintly, and he vanished when Tom looked twice. A chill ran down his spine. That afternoon, Tom sneaked back to the secret room to read more about the stone. The old book described it as a gift from ancient guardians who protected the kingdom. But there was a warning. A dark force, called the Shadow, hunted the stone. It could twist its power to spread fear instead of courage. Tom's hands shook as he read. Was a cloaked man the Shadow? He tucked the stone closer and headed to the party. The hall filled with nobles, their fancy clothes glittering under candlelight. Tom stayed in the shadows, mopping quietly. The king entered, demanding bows, and Tom's refusal sparked the chaos. When the rebels' ram smashed through the wall, Tom held up the stone, its light stunning everyone. But the dark figure's arrival changed everything. Now, in the heat of the battle, the figure stepped forward. The rebels froze, their leader, the scarred woman, whispering, "It's the Shadow." Tom's mind raced. The book's warning was real. The Shadow's voice slithered through the air. "Tom, you're no hero. Give me the stone, or your village burns." Tom thought of Lily, alone at home. His heart pounded. The king, seeing a chance, shouted, "Seize the janitor. He's a traitor." Guards hesitated, torn between the king and the terrifying Shadow. Tom looked at the rebels, then at the stone. Its light flickered, as if sensing his doubt. The Shadow laughed, stepping closer. "You're just a cleaner. You can't win." But Tom remembered the hero from the book, who faced a monster with nothing but courage. He stepped forward, stone glowing brighter. "I won't bow to you either," he said. The Shadow roared, and the ground shook again. A crack split the floor, and something began to rise, something huge, with claws and a growl that made everyone scream. The stone burned hot in Tom's hand. Was it helping him, or was it calling this new beast? What was rising from the floor? And could Tom's courage hold against the Shadow's power? The hall shook as the massive creature clawed its way through the cracked floor. Its scales glinted like black iron, and its roar rattled the chandeliers. Nobles screamed, fleeing toward the axes, while guards stood frozen, their swords useless. The Shadow's red eyes glowed brighter, its bony hand reaching for Tom. "The stone!" it hissed. Tom clutched the stone of courage, its heat almost burning his palm. The rebels rallied behind him, but their leader, the scarred woman, shouted, "Tom, run! It's too strong!" The king, hiding behind his throne, yelled, "Kill them all!" But no one listened. The beast's growl drowned out everything. Tom's heart pounded. He thought of Lily, alone in their hut. Could he save her and the village from this nightmare? Let's go back to the hours before the party, when Tom's plan took a dangerous turn. That morning, Tom had tucked the stone in his apron, its faint glow hidden. He'd kissed Lily goodbye, promising to be home soon. But as he walked to the castle, he felt eyes watching him. In the village square, the cloaked man from before stood under a tree, his face hidden. Tom hurried past, his stomach twisting. At the castle, he overheard two guards talking about a dark ally the king had called for help. "It's not human," one whispered. Tom's mind flashed to the shadow from the book. Was the king working with it? In the secret room, Tom read more. The book said the shadow could summon creatures from the underworld to do its bidding. The stone of courage could stop them, but only if the holder believed in their cause completely. Any doubt, and the stone's power could fail. Tom closed the book, his hands shaking. He believed in saving the village, but fear for Lily made him waver. What if he wasn't strong enough? At noon, the scarred woman found him in the stables. "Tom, we heard rumors. The king's planning something big tonight. Be ready." She gave him a small dagger, just in case. Tom nodded, but his throat felt tight. As he cleaned the hall, he saw the cloaked man again, now inside the castle, whispering to a guard. Tom's heart sank. Was he betrayed? Now, back in the chaos of the hall, the beast fully emerged, towering over everyone. Its claws slashed the air, and the guard screamed as it swiped him aside. The shadow laughed, its voice like breaking glass. "Tom, your courage is weak. The stone will be mine." Tom looked at the rebels, their faces pale but determined. The scarred woman nodded, urging him to act. He held the stone higher, its light flaring. The beast roared, but it didn't attack. It seemed confused, its eyes locked on the stone. Tom took a step forward, his voice shaking but loud. "I won't let you hurt my people." The stone's light surged, pushing the shadow back. The rebels cheered, but the king saw his chance. He grabbed the sword from a fallen guard and lunged at Tom. "Traitor!" he screamed. Tom dodged, but the king's blade grazed his arm, drawing blood. The stone flickered, and the beast roared louder, shaking the floor. Suddenly, a small figure burst through the crowd. "Lily! Grandpa!" she cried, her face streaked with tears. "How has she gotten here?" The shadow turned, its eyes gleaming. "Perfect," it hissed. "Give me the stone, or the girl dies." Would Tom sacrifice the stone to save Lily, or risk everything to stop the shadow?